In the farthest reaches of the galaxy, where stars burned with an intensity that could blind the unwary observer, there existed a realm known only as the Veil, a place shrouded in mystery and whispered about in countless legends. It was here, on a barren moon orbiting a dying star, that two warriors from vastly different worlds would meet for the first time. The air crackled with energy, not just from the charged atmosphere but from the tension between them. The alien warrior woman emerged from the swirling mists like a vision born of dreams and nightmares combined. Her name was Zyra Kale, though most who dared speak it shortened it to Zyra. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, her lithe frame covered in shimmering scales that caught the dim light in ways that made her seem almost otherworldly. Her eyes glowed a fierce amber, capable of piercing through the darkest shadows, while her long silver hair flowed behind her like liquid mercury. Clad in battle armor forged from the rarest metals of her homeworld, she carried herself with an elegance that belied her lethal capabilities. Facing her across the rocky terrain stood Captain Marcus Drake, a decorated officer of Earth's Interstellar Defense Force. Where Zyra radiated ethereal beauty, Marcus embodied rugged human resilience. His weathered face bore the marks of countless battles, each scar telling its own story of survival against impossible odds. Standing at 6 feet 2 inches, his muscular frame spoke of years spent honing his combat skills under Earth's harsh training regimens. Dressed in standard IDF tactical gear, he held his plasma rifle with practiced ease, though his dark eyes betrayed a wariness that went beyond mere caution. Their meeting wasn't coincidence. It was destiny written in the stars themselves. Zyra had been tracking Marcus for days, following a trail of destruction left by his ship after crash landing on this desolate moon. The humans called her species the Silrathi, renowned throughout the galaxy for their unmatched combat prowess and their peculiar code of honor that demanded they prove themselves against worthy opponents. For her part, Zyra had heard tales of the human resistance fighters who had recently begun challenging Silrathi dominance in border territories. She'd come seeking answers, and perhaps a challenge worthy of her legendary status. Marcus, on the other hand, hadn't planned on encountering any aliens during his emergency landing. His mission had been straightforward: deliver critical intelligence to the resistance base on Epsilon 9. When his ship's navigation system failed spectacularly, leaving him stranded on this godforsaken rock, he'd resigned himself to waiting for rescue. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. His sensors had picked up movement outside, movement that didn't match any known wildlife patterns. And now, standing before him, was living proof that humanity wasn't alone in the universe. The wind howled around them, carrying with it particles of ancient dust that danced like tiny fireflies in the dim light. Zyra took a step forward, her movements fluid and predatory. Marcus adjusted his stance, muscles tensing beneath his armor. They were separated by more than just distance. Centuries of cultural differences and galactic politics loomed between them like an invisible wall. Yet as their eyes locked, something passed between them. An unspoken understanding that whatever happened next would change both their lives forever. Neither warrior moved to attack immediately. Instead, they circled each other warily, each assessing the other's strengths and weaknesses. Zyra's enhanced senses detected Marcus's elevated heart rate, but also noted how steady his breathing remained despite their proximity. To her surprise, she found herself intrigued by this human's composure. Most beings trembled at the mere sight of a Silrathi warrior, yet here stood one who met her gaze without flinching. For Marcus, the experience proved equally disconcerting. He'd studied Silrathi physiology during his military training, but nothing prepared him for facing one in person. Her presence commanded attention in ways that defied explanation. There was an aura about her that transcended mere physicality. As they continued their careful dance, he couldn't help but notice how gracefully she moved, her every motion calculated yet appearing completely natural. "Your kind dares trespass in our space," Zyra finally spoke, her voice resonating with an unexpected musical quality. "Why should I not end you where you stand?" Despite her words, there was no malice in her tone, only genuine curiosity. Marcus responded with characteristic human bluntness. "I'm not here to invade anyone's territory. My ship malfunctioned. If your people hadn't set up mining operations in this sector, I wouldn't be stuck here." He paused, then added with a wry smile, "Besides, I've faced worse odds than one oversized lizard." Zyra's eyes flashed dangerously at the insult, but instead of attacking, she threw back her head and laughed, a sound that seemed to echo through the very fabric of space itself. "You humans truly are fascinating. Your language contains such creative insults." She tilted her head, studying him anew. Perhaps there is more to your species than I believed. Their exchange continued in this vein, each probing the other with carefully chosen words and subtle gestures. Marcus learned that Zyra belonged to one of the warrior clans considered elite even among Silrathi standards. In turn, he shared basic information about Earth's recent expansion into interstellar space, careful to avoid classified details. What began as a tense standoff gradually transformed into something neither expected. A genuine connection forming between two beings separated by light years of distance and eons of evolutionary divergence. As their conversation progressed, both warriors found themselves lowering their guards incrementally. Zyra discovered humor in Marcus's tendency to use Earth idioms that made little literal sense, while Marcus marveled at how her expression changed when she found something amusing. The way her eyes sparkled and her lips curled into what could only be described as a smirk. They were still enemies, bound by the conflicts of their respective peoples. Yet in this moment, they were simply two warriors sharing mutual respect. The wind shifted suddenly, carrying with it a new scent that made Zyra's nostrils flare. Without warning, she launched herself at Marcus, moving faster than human eyes could properly track. Instinctively, he raised his arms to block her attack, but instead of feeling the impact of her powerful limbs, he found himself staring at the ground as Zyra dropped to her knees right before him. The move caught him completely off guard, his mind struggling to process what had just happened. Time seemed to slow as Marcus looked down at the kneeling alien warrior. Her silver hair cascaded forward, partially obscuring her face, while her glowing amber eyes fixed on him with an intensity that made his breath catch. For several heartbeats, neither moved. They simply stared at each other, caught in a moment that defied all expectations of their encounter. This isn't possible, Marcus stammered, his military training momentarily overridden by sheer disbelief. Why would someone like you? I thought you were weak, Zyra interrupted, her voice carrying a strange mixture of frustration and wonder. All my life, I've been taught that humans are fragile creatures, barely evolved beyond primates. But you... She shook her head slowly, her scaled hands resting lightly on the rocky ground. You fight with a strength that doesn't come from your muscles alone. There's something else, something I can't quite understand. Marcus knelt beside her, his tactical mind racing to make sense of the situation. Look, I don't know what's going on here, but if this is some kind of trick... No trick. Zyra cut him off again, this time with a hint of amusement in her voice. Among my people, kneeling before another warrior is the highest form of respect. It acknowledges their superiority in combat. She lifted her gaze to meet his eyes directly. And right now, I find myself questioning everything I've ever believed about your species. The absurdity of the situation struck Marcus then, and despite the gravity of their circumstances, he felt a chuckle building in his chest. Here he was, a stranded human soldier, being honored by an alien warrior who could probably snap him in half without breaking a sweat. Well, this is awkward, he managed to say, his attempt at humor masking the whirlwind of emotions churning inside him. I mean, I haven't exactly shown you my best moves yet. To his surprise, Zyra actually smiled. A genuine, radiant expression that transformed her entire presence. That is precisely why I kneel, she replied, her voice softening. You carry yourself as if you have nothing to prove, yet every movement speaks of untapped potential. Your species must be more remarkable than our historians have recorded. The moment stretched between them, filled with unspoken questions and possibilities. Marcus found himself analyzing her posture, noting how even in this position of submission, she maintained perfect balance and readiness. Every instinct screamed that he should remain cautious, yet something about her sincerity touched a chord deep within him. A reminder of those rare moments in combat training when a fellow soldier earned true respect through skill and character rather than brute force. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves here, Marcus said finally, extending a hand to help her rise. We're supposed to be enemies, remember? You're supposed to be trying to kill me, not bowing at my feet. Zyra regarded his offered hand for a moment before accepting it, rising with fluid grace that made the whole kneeling incident seem even more surreal. Perhaps, she acknowledged, but even enemies can recognize greatness when they see it. She released his hand but didn't step back, maintaining an intimate proximity that sent unexpected shivers down Marcus's spine. The wind chose that moment to pick up again, swirling around them with renewed vigor. Both warriors turned their faces to the gusts, finding temporary distraction in nature's display. Yet when Marcus glanced back at Zyra, he noticed something he hadn't seen before. a vulnerability in her expression that contradicted everything he'd learned about Silrathi warriors. It was as if her gesture of respect had opened a door to emotions she wasn't accustomed to displaying. You know, Marcus ventured cautiously, back on Earth we have this saying, don't judge a book by its cover. Maybe your people need to update their library about humans. The attempt at levity served its purpose, drawing a small laugh from Zyra that sounded like tinkling crystal. Perhaps we do, she agreed, her earlier confidence returning bit by bit. But tell me, human warrior, why did you hesitate to strike me down when you had the chance? Your species is not known for showing mercy to perceived threats. Marcus scratched the back of his neck, suddenly aware of how close they were standing. Honestly, I'm still trying to figure that out myself. Maybe it's because you remind me of someone I once knew. Someone who taught me that sometimes, the greatest victories come from understanding rather than destruction. Their gazes locked again, this time charged with something deeper than mere combat assessment. Time seemed irrelevant as they stood there, two warriors from opposing sides, connected by a moment that defied all logic and expectation. Neither knew what the future held or whether this encounter would lead to peace or further conflict. But in that instant, none of that mattered. All that existed was the profound realization that sometimes, the strongest connections form in the most unexpected ways. The moment of revelation shattered as a series of distant explosions echoed across the moon's surface, sending shockwaves through the already unstable ground. Both warriors reacted instantly, their brief connection giving way to trained reflexes honed through years of combat experience. Zyra's scales shimmered with iridescent warning colors, while Marcus's tactical display lit up with incoming threat indicators. The mining facility, Zyra growled, her voice dropping to a dangerous register. Someone's attacking my people's operation here. Her amber eyes narrowed as she scanned the horizon, catching glimpses of plasma fire illuminating the darkness. This changes everything. Marcus activated his comm system, his fingers flying over the controls. Damn it! I was afraid of this. Looks like both our sides decided to crash the party. Static crackled in his earpiece before resolving into urgent voices speaking in multiple languages. Commander, this is Drake. We've got hostiles converging on our position. Multiple ships descending through the atmosphere. Before either could act, a massive shadow passed overhead, belonging to a vessel unlike anything Marcus had encountered before. Its sleek design suggested Silrathi engineering, but modifications indicated human involvement. From its belly, smaller craft deployed, scattering across the landscape like angry hornets. The air grew thick with the hum of approaching engines and the sharp tang of ionized particles. We need to move, Marcus urged, already calculating defensive positions. If those ships start strafing runs. No! Zyra grabbed his arm with surprising gentleness. Not away, toward the facility. My warriors are there, and if humans have indeed joined forces with our enemies. She broke off, her expression darkening as new information scrolled across her personal interface. It's worse than I feared. These aren't just any attackers. They're HFY mercenaries, known for their brutal efficiency and complete lack of honor. The ground trembled beneath their feet as another explosion rocked the distance. Closer this time. Dust and debris rained down around them, forcing both warriors to take cover behind a rocky outcrop. Through the chaos, Marcus noticed something that made his blood run cold. Several of the attacking ships bore markings he recognized from classified IDF documents. These weren't random mercenaries. They represented a faction within human space that had been presumed destroyed during the last galactic conflict. They shouldn't be here, Marcus muttered, more to himself than to Zyra. These ships belong to the Black Sun Consortium, a group we dismantled 3 years ago. Their tech was supposed to be decommissioned. He slammed his fist against the rock in frustration. Someone's playing us both. Zyra's response came swift and decisive. Then we'll play them back. Human warrior, I propose a temporary alliance. Your knowledge of these ships, combined with my understanding of the facility's defenses, might give us an edge. She extended her hand again, this time not in surrender but in partnership. What do you say? Shall we show these invaders what happens when they underestimate both our species? Despite the gravity of their situation, Marcus couldn't suppress a grin. You know, for someone who just knelt before me, you sure don't waste time taking charge. He grasped her hand firmly. Deal. But if we survive this, you're explaining that whole kneeling thing to my superiors. As they emerged from their cover, coordinated blasts from both human and Silrathi weapons forced them to separate, each moving toward strategic points they'd identified during their earlier conversation. The battlefield quickly became a chaotic tapestry of light and sound, with energy beams crisscrossing the sky and explosive charges turning the moon's surface into a lunar obstacle course. Zyra moved with preternatural grace, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to navigate the treacherous terrain while avoiding enemy fire. She communicated with her warriors through subvocal commands, directing them to fortify key positions and establish overlapping fields of fire. Her natural leadership shone through as she adapted to the evolving combat situation, her decisions reflecting both tactical brilliance and deep care for her troops. Marcus, meanwhile, demonstrated why Earth's military valued its special forces so highly. Using modified movement techniques designed for low-gravity environments, he practically flew across the battlefield, setting up automated defense systems and hacking into enemy communications. His actions bought precious minutes for Zyra's forces to reorganize, while his precise counterattacks disrupted the invaders' advance. Their coordination proved unexpectedly effective. When a group of KRYLL mercenaries attempted to flank Zyra's position, Marcus's well-placed EMP burst disabled their shields, allowing Silrathi warriors to neutralize the threat. In return, when Marcus found himself pinned down by superior numbers, Zyra orchestrated a diversionary assault that drew enemy fire away from his location, enabling him to slip through their lines undetected. Yet amidst the chaos, both warriors found themselves confronting unsettling truths. Marcus discovered encrypted data packets suggesting high-level human officials had sanctioned this attack, while Zyra uncovered evidence of traitorous Silrathi working with the mercenaries. Each revelation added layers of complexity to their already precarious situation, forcing them to question not just their immediate adversaries but the very foundations of trust within their respective societies. Through it all, their earlier connection manifested in subtle ways. When Zyra hesitated before ordering a particularly risky maneuver, Marcus's silent nod of approval gave her the confidence to proceed. Likewise, when Marcus doubted his ability to disable a crucial enemy jamming station, Zyra's quiet assurance, "You possess the strength of your convictions, human warrior," spurred him to succeed where others might have faltered. The battle reached its crescendo when both leaders found themselves converging on the facility's main control center. The mercenaries had established a stronghold there, using captured Silrathi technology to coordinate their assault. As Zyra and Marcus approached from different angles, they communicated through a hastily established secure channel, their voices overlapping in a symphony of tactical precision. "Weapons hot," Marcus whispered, his rifle tracking multiple targets through the reinforced observation windows. "Looks like 20, maybe 25 hostiles inside." "Agreed," Zyra confirmed, her claws extending as she prepared for close-quarters combat. "My warriors will create a distraction at the eastern entrance. Your demolition charges should be sufficient to collapse their escape routes." A sudden hail of gunfire forced them to take cover, but instead of retreating, they found themselves instinctively moving toward each other, their bodies pressing close against the same piece of cover. The proximity sparked electric awareness between them, even as they focused on the mission at hand. "You know," Marcus said, reloading his weapon with practiced efficiency, "this whole cooperating with the alien thing is really growing on me." Zyra's response came as a soft chuckle, audible only to him. "Careful, human. Some might say you're beginning to sound like one of us." Their eyes met briefly, communicating volumes in that single shared glance. Then, without needing to speak, they launched their assault simultaneously, their movements synchronized as if choreographed by some cosmic force. The control center erupted into chaos as their combined forces struck with devastating precision, turning the tide of the battle in their favor. As the last of the mercenaries fell, Marcus and Zyra stood amidst the wreckage, breathing heavily but victorious. Around them, the sounds of battle gradually diminished, replaced by the hum of stabilizing systems and the crackle of emergency repairs. Yet even in this moment of triumph, neither warrior relaxed completely, their eyes constantly scanning for potential threats, their bodies poised for action. "We need to talk," Marcus stated, his voice carrying a weight that suggested more than just post-battle debriefing, "about what we found and what it means for both our species." Zyra nodded, her expression unreadable but her body language suggesting agreement. "Indeed, but first, there's something you should understand about my people's traditions." She stepped closer, her presence commanding attention despite her weariness. When a Silrathi warrior kneels before another, it creates a bond that transcends simple respect. It's a commitment, one that cannot be broken without great consequence. The implications of her words hung in the air between them, mingling with the smoke and dust of recent combat. Marcus felt the enormity of their situation pressing down on him, the political ramifications, the potential for interspecies conflict, and the undeniable connection that had formed between them despite all odds. Before either could elaborate, their attention was drawn to a new development. The facility's central command terminal flickered to life, displaying a message that made both warriors freeze in place. The transmission originated from deep within contested space, a region claimed by neither humans nor Silrathi, but the content chilled them to their cores. It spoke of an ancient artifact, long thought mythical, that could fundamentally alter the balance of power in the galaxy. And according to the coordinates provided, it lay buried somewhere beneath their very feet. The discovery promised to complicate their already delicate situation further, raising questions about trust, loyalty, and the true nature of their respective civilizations. As they stood there, surrounded by the aftermath of violence and the promise of greater challenges ahead, Marcus and Zyra found themselves facing choices that would define not just their futures, but potentially the fate of two species on a collision course with destiny. The artifact's chamber revealed itself through a hidden access point beneath the facility's central core, its existence confirming ancient Silrathi legends that Marcus had dismissed as mere myth during his xenocultural studies. The air grew colder as they descended, their footsteps echoing against crystalline walls that pulsed with an inner light reminiscent of Zyra's scales. The chamber itself appeared to be a perfect sphere, its surface covered in intricate carvings that told stories of both species' ancestors, stories of cooperation and conflict spanning millennia. This changes everything, Zyra whispered, her voice trembling with a mixture of awe and dread. Our histories are intertwined far deeper than either of our peoples realized. She traced her fingers along a carving depicting humans and Silrathi working together to build what appeared to be a massive starship. Marcus examined another section of the wall, his tactical mind struggling to process the implications. Look at this, one of these symbols matches the insignia used by the Black Sun Consortium. And here, he pointed to another carving. This looks like early human space exploration technology. Someone has been manipulating both our histories, keeping us divided while they exploited our resources. Their investigation was interrupted by a low hum that resonated through the chamber, causing the carvings to glow brighter. In the center of the sphere, a pedestal rose from the floor, bearing an object that defied conventional physics. It appeared to be simultaneously solid and liquid, shifting between states with hypnotic regularity. Both warriors felt an inexplicable pull toward it, their bodies reacting as if drawn by some primal force. We can't let this fall into the wrong hands, Marcus stated, though his voice lacked its usual conviction. Something about the artifact unsettled him deeply, triggering memories of classified experiments and ethical boundaries pushed too far. Whatever this is, it's more powerful than anything we've encountered before. Zyra nodded, her scales darkening to a deep indigo. A sign Marcus had learned indicated extreme concern among her people. Indeed, but we must consider something else. The timing of this discovery, coupled with the attack on the facility, it suggests that forces within both our governments have known about this for some time. She paused, her next words carrying significant weight. When I kneeled before you, I initiated a warrior's bond. According to our traditions, this means we must now make a choice, to protect this secret together, or risk destroying both our peoples by exposing it. The gravity of their situation settled over them like the oppressive atmosphere of a gas giant. Marcus ran his fingers through his hair, a nervous habit that betrayed his internal struggle. You're asking me to become complicit in covering up something that could change the course of galactic history. My superiors would court-martial me for even considering this, and my council would execute me for betraying Silrathi secrets, Zyra countered, her voice gaining strength. Yet here we stand, bound by something greater than our individual loyalties. Tell me, human warrior, when you look at these carvings, what do you see? He followed her gaze, really seeing the images for the first time. Humans and Silrathi working side by side, sharing knowledge and technology. Scenes of peaceful coexistence interspersed with depictions of united forces defending against common threats. The narrative carved into the walls told a story of unity that contradicted everything he'd been taught about alien-human relations. I see opportunity, Marcus admitted finally, but also danger. If word of this gets out before we understand its full implications, it will ignite a war neither of our species may survive, Zyra finished for him. Which is why we must work together to uncover the truth about this artifact and the forces manipulating our histories. She placed her hand on the pedestal, her touch causing the object to pulse rhythmically. According to our legends, This device holds the key to understanding the true nature of consciousness across species. Imagine what it could mean for interspecies relations if we could prove that our minds are more compatible than we've been led to believe. The artifact's pulsations grew stronger, responding to their proximity. Marcus noticed how the light seemed to dance differently around Zyra, highlighting aspects of her physiology that suggested a deeper connection to the object than he initially realized. You knew about this, didn't you? Not the specifics, but the possibility that something like this existed. Zyra's admission came softly. There were always rumors among the warrior clans, whispers of a time when our peoples walked together among the stars. But until today, I never truly believed them. She turned to face him fully, her amber eyes burning with determination. Now we have a choice to make. We can walk away, report our findings, and watch as politicians and generals decide the fate of both our species. Or we can honor the warriors' bond we've formed and take responsibility for what comes next. The decision weighed heavily between them, underscored by the artifact's growing resonance. Outside, they could hear the sounds of cleanup operations and medical teams treating the wounded. Soon, others would descend to investigate the mysterious energy readings coming from this chamber. They had mere moments to decide their course of action. Marcus reached out, placing his hand beside Zyra's on the pedestal. If we're going to do this, we need to establish some ground rules. No secrets between us, not anymore. Whatever we discover, we face together. The artifact reacted to their combined touch, its surface rippling like water before stabilizing into a complex pattern that seemed to incorporate elements of both human and Silrathi DNA structures. Zyra gasped, recognizing ancient symbols that had been lost to her people for generations. It's acknowledging our bond, she explained, her voice filled with wonder, activating protocols that haven't been accessed in thousands of years. As they watched, holographic displays began emerging from the artifact, showing star charts and genetic sequences that defied current scientific understanding. The implications were staggering, suggesting that human and Silrathi evolution might have been guided by the same mysterious force that created the artifact. More disturbingly, the displays included references to other species, including the KRYLL mercenaries, indicating a web of manipulations spanning countless civilizations. We need to document everything, Marcus insisted, activating his recording equipment. But we'll need to be careful about what we share. If certain factions learn about this, they'll exploit it for their own gain, Zyra completed. Which is why we must operate in secret, at least until we understand the full scope of what we're dealing with. She straightened, assuming a commanding posture that reminded Marcus of their first encounter. I suggest we begin by investigating the genetic markers displayed here. They appear to correspond with specific individuals, perhaps indicating those who are meant to safeguard this knowledge. Their discussion was interrupted by the arrival of Zyra's second-in-command and Marcus's XO, both looking concerned about their prolonged absence. The warriors exchanged a quick glance, silently agreeing to maintain their cover story while discreetly continuing their investigation. As they ascended back to the main facility, the artifact's influence lingered in their minds, its revelations casting doubt on everything they thought they knew about their respective species and their place in the galaxy. The path forward promised to be fraught with challenges, requiring them to navigate political minefields while protecting a secret that could reshape interstellar relations forever. Yet as they parted ways to attend to their respective duties, both warriors felt a renewed sense of purpose, one that transcended their initial animosity and hinted at a future where cooperation might overcome centuries of conflict. The months that followed their discovery of the artifact transformed Marcus and Zyra in ways neither could have anticipated. Operating under the radar of their respective governments, they established a covert network of trusted allies from both species, scientists, diplomats, and warriors who shared their vision of unity over division. The artifact's revelations about shared genetic markers and ancient cooperative ventures between humans and Silrathi provided undeniable proof that their peoples had once thrived together. This evidence became the cornerstone of their mission to rewrite history and forge a new future. Their bond deepened with each passing day, evolving from mutual respect into something far more profound. Zyra's warrior instincts found balance in Marcus's pragmatic human perspective, while his leadership style grew more intuitive thanks to her wisdom. Together, they navigated the treacherous waters of interspecies politics, exposing corruption within both governments that sought to exploit the artifact for personal gain. Their temporary alliance blossomed into an unbreakable partnership, one rooted not just in duty but in genuine affection. The turning point came during a summit on a neutral moon, where representatives from both species gathered to address escalating tensions along their shared borders. Behind closed doors, Marcus and Zyra revealed the artifact's secrets to key leaders, presenting irrefutable evidence of their intertwined histories. At first, skepticism reigned. Centuries of mistrust couldn't be undone overnight, but as the data unfolded, even the most hardened skeptics began to see the truth. The carvings, the genetic markers, and the star charts painted a picture too vivid to dismiss. It was Zyra who broke the final barrier. Standing before the assembly, she invoked the sacred traditions of her people, recounting the story of how she had knelt before Marcus, not out of weakness, but out of recognition of his strength and potential. This act, she declared, her voice resonating through the chamber, was not merely a gesture of respect, it was a prophecy fulfilled. Our ancestors dreamed of this moment, when two warriors from different worlds would stand side by side to unite us all. Marcus stepped forward then, his presence grounding the room. We've spent too long fearing what we don't understand. But fear doesn't build bridges, it tears them down. Today, we have a choice: to cling to old prejudices or to embrace a future where our differences make us stronger. The room erupted into debate, voices rising in protest and agreement alike. Yet amidst the chaos, something remarkable happened. A young Silrathi diplomat approached a human ambassador, extending a clawed hand in friendship. Others followed suit, until the entire chamber buzzed with cautious optimism. By the end of the summit, a historic treaty was drafted, the Accord of Unity, pledging joint exploration of the artifact's mysteries and laying the foundation for lasting peace. In the weeks that followed, Marcus and Zyra became symbols of hope across the galaxy. Their names were spoken in whispers of admiration, their story retold in countless languages. They traveled together, visiting war-torn regions and fostering reconciliation wherever they went. Along the way, they discovered that the artifact's influence extended beyond its physical form. It seemed to awaken dormant connections within those who encountered it, reminding beings of every species of their shared origins. One evening, beneath the twin moons of Zyra's homeworld, they stood together overlooking a vast crystalline ocean. The water shimmered with reflected light, casting dancing patterns across Zyra's scales. Marcus reached out, brushing a strand of silver hair from her face. "You know," he said softly, "I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad you decided to kneel that day." Zyra laughed, the sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "And I never thought I'd meet a human who could make me question everything I believed." She took his hand in hers, her grip firm yet tender. "What happens now? Do we continue fighting side by side? Or do we allow ourselves to dream of something more?" Marcus smiled, his heart swelling with emotion. "Why can't it be both? We've proven that we're stronger together. Maybe it's time we stopped running from what's been growing between us." Her eyes glowed brighter, filled with warmth and promise. "Then let us write a new chapter, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who dares to believe in a better tomorrow." As they embraced, the moons above seemed to align perfectly, bathing them in silvery light. In that moment, they knew their journey was far from over. Challenges lay ahead, and there would always be those who resisted change. But together, they had already achieved the impossible. They had bridged galaxies, rewritten history, and ignited a spark of hope that would burn brightly for generations to come. And so, under the watchful gaze of the stars, Captain Marcus Drake and warrior Zyra Kale chose not just a path of duty, but one of love, a testament to the power of understanding, trust, and the unyielding belief that even the most unlikely alliances can transform the universe. Theirs was a legacy written not in bloodshed, but in the quiet moments of connection that transcended species, proving that sometimes, the greatest victories are those fought not against enemies, but alongside them.